My wonderful, beautiful, amazing Virgos. I'm Gabriella from Gabriella's Vampire Tarot. For today, I'm going to be doing your general reading, your past, present, future, and 9 card spread. I'm going to be using your regular tarot deck, clarify with the vampire deck, draw a special vampire card, draw a vampire oracle, and finish off with 3 yes or no answers for thee. So anyway, let's get started on your reading. Okay. General card is the 9 of Swords. So let's look at the first row, which is obviously your past. I see you incredibly motivated and ambitious with the 8 of Pentacles, but yet you do get hit with the Page of Swords reversed, and my goodness, then you get hit with the Empress reversed. Now technically we're still in Libra season, so this could have taken place towards the end of Virgo season. But what I'm mostly getting here is, it's like either, this hard work is kind of fading away, all of this uncertainty for that matter, but it could also be, how you pretty much we're incredibly, ambitious, motivated, you were incredibly hardworking, but yet something was also kind of holding you back. And then, especially with one of your beautiful cards that came in reversed, it can sometimes happen where, you're incredibly ambitious and motivated on any kind of goal and endeavor for that matter. But then something, this is kind of like the wave going up and this is like the wave going down. And it's just kind of thinking, okay, how can I actually, regain my sense of momentum, my inspiration again? Because I'm wondering, why the 9 of Swords of dealing with some kind of like nightmare situation, came out as a general thought for that matter. I mean, what are you worried about? What's actually causing this stress or anxiety in your life, right? Or at least in today's reading. But anyway, yeah. In current times, you do get the Hangman. Well, Pisces, your opposite sign, you're doing introspection. And then you get the Ace of Cups, some kind of offering, maybe a love offering of some kind. But of course, in a few days I'm doing general love. And then you get, the 9 of Cups of fulfillment. You know what I see you doing is, it's like, we always tend to be, our own worst critics. We always tend to lean towards, the worst possible outcome, right? Because we hope to actually counteract that it eventually, becomes a really good outcome, right? It's like, I've been mostly also personally struggling in my own ways with this upcoming performance myself because, lately, it's like, the practicing and the rehearsals have been going, ups and downs too. 1 minute, one of us sounds good. The other time, another one of us sounds kind of glitchy. And then you just think, oh my goodness, how are we actually going to be sounding during the final grand performance, right? That's all, packed with all kinds of anxiety. So, but I always feel like, if you just pretty much hope for the best, and this is where you're actually hoping for the best possible outcome, hopefully it'll eventually become the best possible outcome. Yes, your general thought, just like with me, even though I'm not a Virgo, but, it's pretty much still, we'll pack with, fears and anxieties and uncertainties, of course, because we're not quite there yet to experience the outcome. We're not there to experience any kind of outcome for anything. Like if you're practicing or rehearsing for like an audition, performance, or practicing, for this big, sports, moment or any kind of like test or exam, it's like, yes, a lot of people, they just think, oh, why do I bother? I just pretty much just don't care anymore. I'm just going to fail anyway. But how do you know that? Is that what it already was foretold somewhere? We're not quite there yet to already experience like the real negative event. But here I see you trying to, will remain hopeful and optimistic. Because part of that hopeful and optimistic, you get 2 of Wands going out on this beautiful voyage, taking a leap of faith, and the Sun upright, Leo energy, goodness. I mean, well, you have, yes, 3 important arcanas of the Hanged Man, Empress, and Sun. So I'm just kind of getting here is that, you realize it's going to be actually, as long as you try to, keep up the sunny disposition, let's put it that way, then it'll eventually, all of your nightmares will fade away. And so the thing is I even have to keep teaching myself that, even though I'm 301 years old. The thing is I also have to try to keep as optimistic as possible because I can always assume the worst possible outcome, thinking it's going to be raining in the cemetery, the human's going to cancel, what have you, so forth. It's just, going to be one big, negative event and experience for that matter. But here it's pretty much like you're actually already know it's going to be okay in the future. And that's the most important mindset, is always try to keep the faith and optimism in your life, even if you just pretty much just, will think, oh goodness, it's just, why do I even bother, right? I've come across those moments constantly. Anyway, for clarification, Eight of Pentacles, you pretty much are incredibly motivated and hardworking because you get the Prince of Grails, the Knight of Cups. So maybe, this motivation is opening up this new offering of whatever it may be in other ways. And that's a really good motivator to have, sometimes stress can be a really good motivator, but I always feel like if you're incredibly committed towards something, or if you really feel like, well, you're heading off towards this new beginning of anything, or you're hardworking and you're pretty much proving to yourself who you truly are and what you're capable of doing, eventually, all of your nightmares and uncertainties and everything are just going to wash away. So, but I do love how you probably did get some kind of like beautiful offering, because you proved how strong and confident you are by maybe taking an exam, maybe, performing in that audition or doing whatever it is, right? So, speaking of feeling committed, is even though you pretty much just don't have this outgoingness, you just think, oh goodness, this means I'm gonna have to go back to, my office, my workspace and stuff like that. Well, you get the Hierophant. You're more, I think either Leo or Cancer, maybe even Gemini, if you even want to check out their videos. But it's like, normally, you would want to actually have this good sense of optimism to actually find the motivation to proceed with any kind of like goal, right? But sometimes you kind of have to force yourself to do something, even though the last the last thing you even want to be thinking about is heading off towards that goal, because, or that office space, that workspace of yours, because maybe deep down inside you just think, I have a headache right now, I just feel very tired, I feel like, no matter what kind of beverage I'm consuming, it's just not giving me that real, energy within me and stuff like that. Well, I see you proceeding with it nonetheless, and I think this is so impressive, and you should always be proud of yourself, and always maybe even reward yourself if you had to overcome something, even if it's just one day's worth of work where you just think, oh goodness, I just feel like I just want to call in sick right now. I just don't feel like dealing with anything right now. But this is actually a reason of moving forward either way. Because even though you got the Empress reversed, you get the second Daughter of Knives, the Page of Wands. And what I love about the pages, whether it's Page of Swords, sorry about that, whether it's Page of Wands, Page of Pentacles, Page of Cups, or Page of Swords, is it's definitely a journey's card. It's definitely heading out into this world. It's, there's definite movement, because if you even get a chance to watch one of my previous videos about the history of Elizabeth Bathory and other ways, what I'm mostly seeing here is, as long as blood is flowing through the human body, it means there's movement. As long as there's movement and opportunities, it means that, it's pretty much working. Because I've even mentioned this, like, at one of my earlier videos about the metaphorical traffic jam. Because, if you're stuck in a metaphorical or in an actual traffic jam, there's no movement. And that means, how do you know that it's pretty much, not going to, send you off on this alternative detour? Well, sometimes you do have to take detours just to keep, your vehicle moving, instead of wasting, precious petrol or gasoline, because, you're pretty much just saying, no, we're just going to, weather this metaphorical storm in other ways. No, I do see you pretty much just heading out nonetheless, maybe taking an alternative detour, because you're doing introspection with the Hanged Man, of actually verifying this whole choice and decision of yours, because you get the Three of Wands. So I see you actually boarding the ship of opportunity of wherever it may take. Maybe it is like an alternative detour, but here you're actually thinking through this upcoming decision of yours. And that's very important to even have, because the thing is with any kind of like choices, you want to just do a lot of introspection and then verify it, just to make sure that your senses and intuition are all aligned with this decision. Because if your mind's pretty much just saying, we need to do this, but, deep down, your gut instinct says, wait a second, why should we actually do that? We're only about maybe 10-15 minutes away, and if we take this detour, it's going to be like maybe an extra half hour to an hour, right? So, but here you are pretty much just kind of analyzing and just kind of having like this overview of this plan of yours. Because with this beautiful offering, you get the Queen of Wands. You could be receiving an offering from maybe a Leo, but this is another Leo card. But this is pretty much accepting, this offering and you have so much confidence. Now, the thing is let's say that, this alternative detour, you're kind of just actually taking it. Now you feel incredibly confident because you just think, as long as there's movement, I was actually being presented with an alternative course or a change of path and stuff like that. But yet, there's no traffic jam right there. No, because right now I feel so much confidence because I proceeded with this offering and I actually just, yeah, it just looked incredibly promising and beautiful on so many levels. So, well, because with the Nine of Cups, you do get a sense of fulfillment, but then you get hit with the Ten of Wands, maybe having to deal with hard work or feeling burdened. Let's say that, you got stuck in a traffic jam on your way to work, wherever it may be and however it may be. But now, you pretty much, are happy that you managed to find a really good parking spot. But here you are actually applying a lot of hard work and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, the thing is, it's like ups and downs, waves. It's pretty much, it's kind of, well, 1 minute you feel like this, the next minute you feel like that. It's just pretty much a common feeling to have mixed feelings, senses, ideas, suggestions, and other ways. But eventually, as long as you just realize saying, yes, I feel incredibly fulfilled because I have this really good job. I have this really good, paycheck, whatever it may be. But here you are doing a lot of hard work, and maybe you might feel a little bit burdened and stressed about it, but as long as there's a reason to feel any form of fulfillment, that's really important. Though with this upcoming journey, the Two of Wands, you get hit with Aries. A big change, but it's kind of hopefully just the silver linings kind of change for that matter. So I'm wondering what this, upcoming change, but you know what I'm kind of getting here, because I mentioned this to the previous zodiac signs, I'm going to also mention it to you, is that, it's like just because, these cards show up in the future, it's usually not what it's guaranteed to happen, because there's not always a sense of certainty or anything that's going to happen in other ways. It could happen, because, these tarot cards show up for a reason, but it's also something that you could be worried about. If you're heading out, in the future, maybe towards a new job, career, or maybe you're going to be heading off towards this silver lining big change. Yes, sometimes, it's like any kind of like silver lining big changes. It's not what you want, dream, wish, and desire, but it's kind of like a take it or leave. It's kind of offering where you pretty much, will know that, you have to proceed with it either way, even though deep down inside, that's the last thing you even feel like having to be experiencing is this silver lining. Because by taking a leap of faith, maybe you're actually going to be heading off towards a new career, or maybe you are actually going to be, taking more detours, whatever it may be. You get hit with the Ten of Swords. Painful ending of some kind. And the thing is, I want to hope and wish you all the best in whatever happens in other ways, but sometimes, there's not always going to be, and will be a guarantee for anything for that matter, so you pretty much just think, okay, let's try something, nothing ventured is nothing gained, and then suddenly you just get hit with this painful ending. Yeah. I mean, of course, whatever defines a painful ending, but I'm just thinking that you're just kind of worried about the future. And that's why these cards show up. It's not what is guaranteed to happen, because there's always, that moment where anything could always change the future for that matter. Because whatever you work on right now, it looks incredibly promising. You're confident, maybe you're accepting a new offering. Maybe you are actually, working through maybe a sense of fulfillment in other ways. But then suddenly, this combination could also trigger something in the future. Because with the Sun reversed, the Sun will shine in your favor, and then you get one of the cards I pulled for the Vampire, also known as Death. But it's pretty much like this kind of, rebirthing kind of moment. So maybe this Ten of Swords moment is pretty much actually you having to embrace, having to shed what's not benefiting you so you can welcome this new beginning. And with the Ten of Swords, sorry about that, because the Ten of Swords is pretty much like this definite painful ending of some kind, but it's also kind of like maybe transitioning into this new phase. And that's kind of what it's, this is like gaining new silver lining experience and insights. It's like entering into this new you. I mean, of course, we've been past the Virgo season, but of course, this is pretty much still, the start, of your, you have your year cycle of 2025 to 2026. So this is pretty much already like this new rejuvenating and this renewal, rebuilding kind of moment that's going to be taking place. But be rest assured that the Sun will definitely be giving you a sense of clarity as well, but also confidence to experience this rebirthing moment. Because Special Vampire card says, Seven of Cups, you're going to be presented with options and opportunities, or this is what you probably are hoping to achieve in other ways. But the thing is you know, it's like, I would just try to keep as optimistic and and positive as possible, in a sense where you try to hope for the best outcome. You know, there's not always going to be a guarantee for anything, even for my upcoming performance. I always try to keep as optimistic as possible on so many ways and just hope for the best, because that's actually the best practical way to look at anything, is to hope for the best. You know, it's like how this one ancient saying goes, you'll always have a no, but you might eventually get a yes. And so that's with any kind of like lack of uncertainty or anything, is, you know, it's like right now you might be struggling and suffering with thinking, oh goodness, you know, I'm just stuck in the no phase. But eventually maybe you have to kind of, you know, have a bit of a personal rebirthing moment of some kind, and then this is actually a possible yes that's going to be heading off towards you in the future. Right? Because Oracle wants to continue with enlightenment, inspiration, epiphany, and innovation. So this is kind of like, you know, yeah, just finding a sense of being inspired and trying to remain as optimistic about the future as possible. Of course, there's never a guarantee for anything, but try to find any kind of way to inspire yourself to find any kind of epiphanies and maybe become like a good innovator of some kind, but try to find any form of enlightenment, or maybe you even like felines and stuff like that. But try to find, you know, as much purpose and reasons as possible to actually hope for a best possible outcome, because so far it looks like, you know, at least in the current part, it looks incredibly promising. But try to find that sense of momentum again to keep going, and not just only think, oh goodness, you know, it's like, I mean, it's common and it's a normal feeling to, you know, to feel. One minute you just think, oh yeah, everything is just working out, and then the next you just think, oh goodness, you know, it's like, what if it doesn't work out? I've been feeling like that so every day practically, you know, in the last few weeks, where I just think, oh goodness, what if this upcoming performance is this and that, blah blah blah. But then, you know, my human familiar says, Miss Gabriella, it's pointless to even already and be, you know, talking about it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't be, you know, like, you know, just, you know, well, only, you know, just still thinking about the worst possible outcomes and stuff like that, right? So, at least try to keep the faith in other ways. So I'm going to finish off with 3 yes or no answers. Please feel free to pause this video and think about the questions you want answered. For number 1, you get a yes with the 8 of Wands. I'm not allowed to show this, but you get another yes with the Devil reversed. And then you get the 3rd yes with the King of Wands, Leo energy. My goodness, there's a lot of Leo energy today. Well, my beautiful Virgos, I'm going to have to leave it at this for now, but if this resonated, my goodness, sometimes I just can't. I'm probably going to have to be feeding before I do my, you know, the other readings for today. But other than that, if this reading resonated for Virgos and Virgo placement, please feel free to join and subscribe to my channel for more vampire knowledge. Next week, I'm going to go back to Dracula because we're heading off towards that spooky season. Also, the upcoming performance, I keep having to remind myself of that. But in a few days, I'm going back to general love readings, and I'm also open for personal readings. Please let me know in the comments section if you're ever interested in a personal reading from a vampire. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me. I love you incredibly. I want to wish you all the best of where this journey may take. You know, I just want to wish you for all the best possible outcomes wherever it may be. But always try to always believe in yourself on so many levels and stuff like that. But otherwise, I love you guys and thank you so very much.